y'all are in for a treat. Y'all are in for a treat. Relax on this one. Don't take it too seriously. This is Azealia Banks. I'm not even too familiar with Azealia Banks, but I just saw this recent story about Azealia Banks, who has been a very, very staunch pro-Israel supporter, and she turned against Israel all of a sudden while she's on her trip to Israel. Certain things happened. Certain things happened that made her say, I'm going a different way. So she went from super pro-Israel to going on a trip to Israel. And this is her second trip, actually, and completely turning on Israel and rocking now with, I guess, the more pro-Palestinian movement that she was hypercritical of. And she was hypercritical of them just 10 days earlier. I believe this interview that we're getting ready to look at came out just 10 days ago. Let me look at the page. So it's Israel Daily News. So, this is hilarious. So I don't know if she got paid, what's the 7,000 shekels or whatever it's called for this interview, but she doesn't even cam up for the interview. Now, to the interviewer, I'm not sure her name. It looks like Shayna Fold, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but her page is Israel Daily News. So shout out to her. Yeah, like you say, like I said, it's October 6th, so I guess a little bit about 12 days ago. And for her to go to Israel, completely change her tune, we just gonna take a look. So and at first I was thinking we can't go through this entire interview. Trust me, this is worth it. Trust me, this is worth it. So we're going to take a look at this interview. Then we're going to look at the other story that I saw initially. And of course, we'll be sharing our thoughts throughout the entire video. I'll try not to pause too much, but yeah, let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, Azealia Banks. It's very exciting to have you and to get to see you live in person here in Israel.
Yeah, let's have a good time. It's been a crazy season, but we have this like whole like holiday season coming on, and it's you start getting a little sentimental. It's like, let me go be near my friends and like my people.
That's really awesome. And let me tell you that Israel during the holiday season, we celebrate our holidays based on the seasons here in this place. So you're really going to feel it. You're going to see the fruits. You're going to feel the weather. Everything that is described in the Bible about this time, you're going to feel it when you're here.
Oh wow.
Yes.
That's like tickling all of my like good Catholic school girl fantasies of Israel. It's so funny. And, like there's so much about Israel that is just lodged in the back of my brain just from Catholic school. And yeah, there's still the little like good Catholic school girl in me that wants to go get like dipped in the Dead Sea and like go to Galilee and do all that stuff. So I'm gonna have a good time.
So, one question that I have for you, you have actually been to Israel in the past and you didn't have a positive experience. So, I want to know what went into that experience and what are you expecting for things? How do you think things are going to be different on your next trip?
So when I went to Israel, I was really naive, and of course, they teach kids in Catholic school like, oh yeah, this is where the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, everybody gets along, and everything's gonna be fine. So, and I mean, yeah, I tuned it out, and I just grabbed whatever, like whoever was in my team, and I was like, okay, let's go to Israel. So I had a Muslim security guard, and this very big, like visibly Muslim Turkish guy, and it just makes sense to me that that's why everything was so tough. But this time that I'm going, I'm now I'm going and I know better. And the first time I went part of this like student exchange thing, and it was yeah, I was supposed to go to see the Dead Sea and do all of these things, and they flew me on El Al, and I was the only girl on the El Al flight with like this little like gay flag like like gay flag crop top and sparkly leggings and just like there with all this like strong perfume in this whole plane full of Hasids. And it was a like a culture shock. And nobody explained anything to me. And I mean, I didn't know any better. So I just came in a way that was like a little crazy. But this time, this time I know better. This time I'm just gonna come on my own, or maybe I'll have like a makeup artist fly with me, and we're just gonna, keep it light and healthy.
Well, there are so many worlds within Israel. You have, I live in Tel Aviv, a little more progressive, a little more open. There's Jerusalem, which has a religious feel. So if you don't have any context, you might only see one lane and you
Yeah,
might
I
not.
only I
Yeah.
only saw Tel Aviv. Like I wanted to go to Jerusalem. I wanted to go to the Dead Sea. Like you want to go see all that stuff. So I'm gonna get to see all of that stuff now. And yeah, I did. I honestly, when I left, like because I planned to stay in Israel like 6 more days, but I just was kind of just in my mind, sometimes you can get in a way where you're just like, oh, like especially when you're a female artist, you can really think that everything is because you're a female, because you're black, or because this, and a lot of like now I'm realizing like a lot of times it's not even about that. So I'm gonna go back this time, and I'm gonna go easily and like with just a good vibe.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a little bit about the tour after we go through a little bit of your journey. I'm a New Yorker. I'm very excited that you're a New Yorker. I feel strongly that New Yorkers are awesome, and I want to know, can I know a little bit about your New York upbringing and what was your vision of Jewish people? How has that changed? And tell me about the atmosphere of New York, even from then and now.
So, okay, so I grew up in West Harlem, just right above, like on 152nd Street, Amsterdam and Broadway. And I grew up with a very Presbyterian kind of Catholic, like wrapping around me, just what my mom would like, we'd go to Catholic church and stuff like that. But also in the neighborhood, we have like the Presbyterian hospital and stuff like that. And my mom worked at a lot of places where, she got hired by Jews and stuff like that. Namely, she had this job at this place called Lee's Art Shop, which was run by this family of Jews. And it was like my that was like my mother's pride and joy. Like she waited on celebrities and did a bunch of stuff like that. So we always had that closeness, and that I always had that understanding of just like, okay, yeah, like Jews are like, I mean, honestly, like, I had to take a step back. I was just like, damn, maybe about 85% of the white people I know are Jews. So I didn't really understand where a lot of people are coming from with just the conservative Christian thing, because I only really know Catholics and Jews. I don't know. I mean, I know some Baptist people, but I don't really know that many
It's
people.
very New York. I also didn't meet any non-Catholics or Jews until I was 18.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe that has a lot to do with it too. But I mean, it was really a culture shock coming to the EU and coming to the UK, and just seeing how much of a like just seeing how big anti-Semitism is outside of New York City. It was just kind of like whoa, like because I mean, you don't really experience it inside of New York City, and I mean, it's not something that's really talked. I mean, maybe it's something that's talked about amongst Jews, but it's never been like a thing that any of my Jewish friends have kind of sat down and spoke to me about and like
About what
expressed
exactly?
about anti-Semitism,
Absolutely. I
like
think that there's been a stretch where Jews maybe felt a lot less anti-Semitism up until the last couple of years.
yeah, and maybe it just wasn't a thing, and I mean sometimes you would hear people say it, but it'd just be like, what do you mean? Like I didn't really understand what it meant. I thought it was kind of just like a fancy way of like white people like trying to say like, oh, you're being like anti-white, but because my understanding was like I like 85% of the white people I know are Jewish, so I just didn't fucking know. But I would see Hasidic people walking around when I was a kid, and like, I know it sounds really ignorant, but I would just think that they were like something to do with Christmas or something. I would just think they were like Santa Claus people, and I would just be like, oh yeah, like look, the people are dressed up, they're going for Christmas, and I just always thought they were like just having Christmas all the time. I didn't really put two and two together, like about the Haredim, and understand that like, okay, no, these people are Jewish people. And when I would go to, South Brooklyn, and I would go shop in the little vintage shops, I would find myself wandering around, and then I'd like walk into these neighborhoods, and I'd just be like, what the fuck is this? And I was just nosy. I would be there with my iPod, like going into Judaica and just going into the Jewish bakeries, just because I just wanted to know. And they would kind of like look at me like, what are you doing? Some people would be nice. And then it all started coming together to me like, okay, these are Hasidic Jews and whatever, whatever. Then when I came to the EU in February, and the thinking was,
if I may just pause very quickly because she's talking very fast and like the first thing that comes to mind as I'm listening to this is just damn, Israel is in desperate need of some publicity, some good publicity, aka some propaganda, because for this to be the artist that you're interviewing, nothing against her, but this just doesn't seem to be the type of interview that would typically be done by this type of reporter. You know, bringing on a black rapper from Harlem to do what exactly? To spread a pro-Israel message so she can spread to her fan base that predominantly probably is not looking at Israel in a favorable way. I mean, the majority of America, I don't believe, is looking at Israel in a favorable way. But damn, like this is what y'all got to go get. Like, and I've never heard of Azealia Banks. Apparently, she's a very big artist. I never heard of her or heard her music. I probably have heard her name before, but I just, yeah, damn. And make sure y'all listen to as much as we play of this interview and then stay tuned for the other segment because it just gets funnier and funnier as I'm listening to this. But let's keep going. And another thing, the interviewer said that, oh, yeah, it seems like we had a good stretch of less anti-Semitism, but then over the last 2 years, it seems like there's been more of it. Maybe read the room a little bit. Maybe it's because you're committing a genocide against Palestinians and people are not looking at you with the favor that they used to look at. Maybe you should look internally a little bit and hold yourself accountable to a certain degree and say, hey, maybe we are the ones that are wrong if the entire world is looking at us like we're messing up. So let's keep going.
Okay, Trump is doing this no double taxation on expats thing. You know, most of my engineers and shit and producers are in the UK and EU. I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna hit it big because being closer to the people I work with is gonna be amazing. Wrong. So I get to the UK and I get to the EU and you know I just have all of these like people that are my peers, kind of just and people that I just assumed, assumed that we had a pact in music that whatever's happening politically and whatever else and whatever we are still musicians and we still gonna make this money and do this. And I was really really surprised to just see so many people just openly anti-Semitic, and I was just like, wait, what's going on here? This because it's just a mind fuck. It's like you guys made it a crime to talk about fat people, made it a crime to talk about black people, made it a crime to talk about trans women, but now it's okay to talk about the Jew. I don't get it. Like I genuinely don't get it. Like I don't get how people reconcile that. And you know, people were then people in the EU and the UK, they were accusing me of being a genocide supporter, like just all of these things that like, you know, I guess I had my head down and I wasn't really paying attention to, you know, this recent round of Israel Palestine relations because it's kind of just been, you know, it's been common practice as a New Yorker, mind your business, you know, like you have lots of Jewish friends, we have like, you know, we have Afghan people that live there in New York. We have a lot of Yemeni people. It's just something that you just like out of courtesy, you just don't talk about because you don't really have the standing to talk about it and you don't know what you're talking about, you know? So when everyone was just talking about it, like a big part of me was kind of just like, all right, stay out of this because you know this is like this is like, and Azealia Banks will say anything, but for a long time I was just like, stay out of this. But I just watched what people were saying, and I'd watch these like producers talking shit about Jews, and then I just be like, what are you talking about? Like I first off, I don't know these people. Like whatever you're talking about, like blood, like I don't know people like that, you know? And it's honestly just been a bunch of bullshit. Like I don't under like I really don't understand, and I'm not a fake person. I'm not gonna just obligatorily like jump in and dump on Jews because this is like the cool thing to do now or whatever. So I'm also still like really confused. But it was honestly just this shit with the fucking festivals, you know. The fact that like, okay, when you book Azealia Banks, you know what you're getting. You know, you know like that I come with a bunch of shit. So I booked these festivals, I'm headlining these festivals, you know, the festival tickets are sold out, and then all of a sudden some like group called Ravers for Palestine start like, boycotting me, blacklisting me, and I'm getting all this pressure from the promoters to say free Palestine, or just then I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? That was the moment that I had to step back and I was like, okay, hold up. This is gonna ruin society as we know it. And actually maybe this is a problem when you like start capitulating to the woke mob. It's always one thing after another. And once you capitulate, you have to capitulate to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I was just kind of like, this is crazy. Like this is just fucking crazy. So that was the turning point when, I had promoters and I hadn't signed up for those festivals knowing that they were going to be a political thing. Like they're having these like Palestine action recruitment drives at the festivals. Like what the fuck is that? So yeah. Anyways, I'm happy to come to Israel and just be with like people that honestly, like I don't know. There's nothing that I can like. It's I'm sure it's as mind boggling to you as it is to me. I'm just kind of like, listen, I'm like this, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. Israel feels right. I know the Jews, like these are my people. They're not, I don't know.
I think that you're having an experience that a lot of Jews feel.
Hold up. First off, I'm gonna go back. But damn. Like, first off, she's talking about capitulating and capitulating to putting out more pro-Palestine messages. Like, does she not realize what APAC is? Does she not realize the influence that APAC has had on our politicians? She's in the music industry. She just said that 85% of the white people that she knows are Jewish. I'm pretty sure in the music industry, she's well aware that there's a huge Jewish influence, and a lot of those people are the Zionist, pro-Israel folk. So for her talking about capitulating, once you capitulate to this, yeah, that's absolutely true. But who are we talking about? Are we talking like, are more people capitulating to pro-Palestinian efforts, or more people in America capitulating to pro-Israel efforts, Zionism efforts? Y'all tell me. Let's keep going.
I don't know.
I think that you're having an experience that a lot of Jews feel actually when they come to Israel, and they feel like they could breathe for a minute because they could just be and live and not have to deal with other people's experiences or perceptions and just be here. And that's one reason actually why I'm here, because I didn't want to have to explain myself who I
Oh,
am.
just like having to explain your humanity all the time. It's like, I mean, I get a dose of that, not to be like as a black woman, but I do get a dose of that. But just this extra layer on top of it, being from New York, and people are like, oh, your tax dollars support genocide. I'm like, you mean the taxes that I'm forced to pay? Like, who wants to pay taxes? What do you mean?
100%. I do think that it's valid, your identity, because when you cannot just show up as yourself in your work or in your life, and you're in a constant state of explaining everything, it can be challenging. So what I
And then you don't get anything done, and that's how they win. So I'm coming to Tel Aviv to just really get like a summer's worth of just songs done, because it's so bad that people are boycotting me and blacklisting me from all angles, and it's really insane.
Wow, this is honestly a breakthrough, hearing that an American artist from New York needs to come to Tel Aviv to get work done. That's really shocking. So tell me about the work you're going to do, your upcoming tour, and if there is a message or something that you want people to get out of it, and what kind of performances they're going to do. Tell me about your time here.
So when I come there, I'm gonna do the girls just like a cute little show. I lost like a good 350,000 pounds worth of touring this summer for not saying free Palestine, and I've kind of just been waiting around in UK, like hoping things will pick up or hoping things will change, but nah, motherfuckers are not gonna change. And I mean, it just is what it is, and I'm not gonna walk back anything that I said, because I meant everything I fucking said. And yeah, I think also there's just this expectation that I'm supposed to lend my voice, or that you can hijack my voice, because I'm gonna fall prey to some like weird thing about brown versus black, like brown people versus white people, all the big bad white people and whatever the fuck. That's not gonna work, especially not for me. It's not gonna work. And yeah, I have to come to Tel Aviv to get some work done, because things are so tense in the UK, and I don't think they'll be tense in America, but things are so tense in the UK that people are really boycotting one another and policing one another. Like people have gone through my Google search to find pictures of like some Jewish guy that I dated fucking 4 years ago to like call me a Zionist or call me a genocide supporter. Like, and it's just like this is really getting insane. And I thought I was crazy, but no. Actually, motherfuckers might really be crazy, and I just have to get away from people.
You have lost a lot of money, a lot of support, and a lot of opportunities for not saying free Palestine. What can you give me a rundown of some of the opportunities that have been canceled for you, some of the things that you haven't been able to do because of your support of Jewish people and of the state of Israel?
So my like the two big festival bookings that I had this summer canceled. I had like a residency in Amsterdam that was canceled. I was supposed to play Big Day Out in Scotland. They canceled that. I was supposed to play in Newcastle. They canceled that. Um, a lot of things have been canceled. And then, but I do have my shows in New York City and in Atlanta, AEG. So that's gonna be good. But even my booking agency, they like, and there's all this weird collusion. So found out that my booking agency has this charity thing called Client Earth that has these weird ties to like Palestinian charities and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of action in the UK music industry and entertainment sector where people are running these charity scams and this like, and it's like, listen. I don't know how money is getting into Gaza right now. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, and like I was not told when I booked these shows that this was the Free Palestine event. I wouldn't have booked these shows if I knew that this was gonna be some like jihadi mujahideen shit, and it's just like it's crazy and it's annoying to have been like led down a road and thought that I was just doing my show, but you guys are like are attaching all of this like Palestine shit to my gig, and like I'm kind of like my voice is being hijacked for a cause that I don't really want anything to fucking do with. So it's been a lot of head fuckery and just like the collective punishment. Like you see these like documents going back and forth, the back and forth between like the agency and the promoters and the whatever, and they're just like, oh, does she think a bunch of Zionists are gonna book her? And I'm like, I mean, who's been booking me my whole fucking life? What do you mean? Like nobody supports Azealia Banks like the Jews support Azealia Banks. That's number one. And number two, look at what's happening.
Nobody supports Azealia Banks like the Jews. And apologize. Y'all know I eat sometimes on the show. Nobody supports Azealia Banks like the Jews. And something that she said earlier, where somebody was trying to push her to be out there with pro-Palestine, and she said that they were trying to racialize it, like pin black people against white people or brown people against white people. And she said she wasn't going for it. Stay tuned. That's all I'm gonna say. Stay tuned, because ironically, that pinning black people against white people. That's exactly what got Azealia Banks to shift her mindset and go from pro-Israel to pro-Palestine. But it's in a way that y'all will have no idea. I'm telling y'all, it's insane how it actually came to be. But I'm gonna keep y'all on the hook with that. Keep watching.
Here with this stuff. Like, this Palestinian lobby is now trying to deprive a black woman of her right to fucking work, an American black woman of her right to work after they've used my name to advertise these shows, and then they want to throw me out like I'm the fucking I'm the fucking baby in the bathwater. That's not cool. That's not cool. And no. Whoever these lobbyists are, you guys have completely lost my support. I'm never gonna support. I'm never going to support that, because one thing you don't do in the West is come to the West and tell, especially an American woman, an American black woman, that she has to go to church or that she has to believe this. You don't tell a black woman from New York City what to do. You just don't fucking do it. And furthermore, you don't tell an American woman what she's going to do and what she's not going to do. So that's that on that. Honestly, I've lost a lot of faith and a lot of trust in just the UK music industry and just like the EU. But I mean, everyone is on this bullshit. Everyone's on this bullshit. And I don't see how this influence of just kind of like militancy and Islamism is like producing art.
So, do
I
you
feel like
think, I understand that you've learned a bit about Jabotinsky and his writings, and you've shared that you saw crossover between the Jewish community and the Black American community. I want to ask
But
you.
we know that the crossover has been there. You know,
Absolutely.
it's just like when you're in school, all you read about is, you know, it's all just like the horror stories of the Holocaust. You know, we don't get Jabotinsky in our social studies curriculum. I really wish we did. You know, like you get like as it's like honestly like I would much rather learn about Jabotinsky than fucking Hitler. Like please change the curriculum. Like I don't want to learn about. I mean, I guess you have to learn about it so like you know history doesn't repeat itself. But you know, just learning that there are all of these like really fucking like amazing like Jewish thinkers and stuff. I feel like I feel like I've been cheated out of like an education. So I'm gonna go to Israel and I'm gonna go pick up a lot of like just pick up the pieces and fill in the holes and fill in the blanks. So I don't have just like this and it's something that I'm doing with myself, you know, like just this story of like, oh, slaves on a boat coming over, blah blah. No, it's much more deeper. It's way more nuanced than that. Um, and yeah, like just reading the way Jabotinsky writes about the Black experience. It's not all this like you know, just like crazy stuff and just kind of it's not so sensational. It's very to the point and very direct and he's it's not even like he's trying to use it as a way to make himself, you know, because you know like people really love to use the Black experience as a vehicle to push their own stuff. But Jabotinsky was just writing about it. He was just like, yo, this is crazy, you know, like like on the backdrop, like this idyllic backdrop of freedom for all and everything, there's blatant fucking you know, discrimination against these people, and it's never gonna change. That's really what kind of stuck out to me with Jabotinsky saying, like, no, it's permanent. And I'm like, damn, he's right. But when you compare Judaism to the other two Abrahamic religions as a base a base to build a society, to build an economy upon, like Judaism works. Talmudic philosophy fucking works. Zionism works. And Zionism is the framework that we all fucking live in, whether you want to or not, whether you want to admit that or not.
Well, are you
But
saying that because of the democratic values that the United States and the Western world has adopted, which are
no, no,
based
no,
off
no,
of,
no, no,
okay.
no. I'm saying this because I think now is a moment in time where I'm realizing that Zionism is to Jews what hip hop is to Black America. And it's like it's this manifesto, it's this wish for the future, and it's like dreams manifested into reality. So there's something very magical about Zionism. And when you read, when you really get into the origins of Zionism and you get into Weitzman and you get into and, you know, Max Nordau and Jabotinsky and Herzl and stuff, you know, these are all these just like armchair, you know, like just armchair visionaries who really just had like just a desire.
It's honestly hard to find a spot to stop it because she's just like, there's no gaps when she talks, there's no breaths. But did she just relate or say that Zionism, like Zionism to Jewish people, is what hip hop is to Black people? And she's talking about Zionism as if it's an amazing thing. Uh, Hip hop, if we're looking at it objectively on what it's done to Black culture, it's been overwhelmingly negative, and not only to Black culture, but to American culture overall. Like you could say, oh, hip hop started as this. Yeah, well, so did the gangs, right? The Crips started with, you know, a community revolution in progress, but I wouldn't say that they're living by the same principles of that now. So it's the same thing with hip hop. You could say hip hop started as whatever, but it's damaged more lives, in my opinion, than it has helped. If we're just being honest with it, and then if we're being honest with the culture of hip hop, total, you know, little sidebar, then maybe we can address it and make it a more positive thing. But by us acting as if we can't address it, and maybe this is the same thing that does happen with Zionism. Maybe there are, maybe Azealia is making a great point, because hip hop has not been a great thing to the community that it apparently serves, and to outside communities. Hasn't been a lot of positivity that's come from that, in my opinion. Zionism, I would say that if you're a Palestinian or if you live in that region, I'm sure that you would agree. So let's continue. Let's continue, shall we? And then, yeah, hold up. And just overall, stop doing all this stuff. Jewish people, I've heard this before where it's like trying to act as if blacks and Jews have gone through the same struggle. Like, look, a lot of people have been persecuted and oppressed over time. But why there seems to be this necessary matchmaking concept between blacks and Jews and us relating to each one's struggle, like I don't see it. I'm sorry, I don't see it. People have tried to explain it to me. I don't see it. And I don't think that it benefits blacks by putting us in the same category. Perhaps it benefits Jews when they can say that blacks have gone through the same struggle or relate when we each relate to each other's struggle. But I don't think that benefits black people, if I'm just being totally honest. So you can miss me with that. Like nah.
Fire in their soul to like, imagine this world where the Jewish children can just play and be happy, and that's exactly what hip hop was, it's like imagining this world, this, creating this place and this space where Black people can feel safe and feel loved and feel confident and all that stuff like that. And when you look at Zionism and hip hop, they have both outgrown their creators, so Zionism has outgrown, Israeli nationalism, and the Jew, it's outgrown Judaism, and that's something to be really fucking proud of. Zionism it is the world religion, because Zionism is AI, Zionism is Uber, Zionism is Shopify, Zionism is Waves Audio, Zionism is Auto-Tune, Zionism is, it's a sex change. It's reaching your apex as a human, and Zionism is what we all subscribe to. There's no way that Islam thinks that it's going to get anywhere far while they're still hooked up to American and Israeli telecommunications, things like. And like when you look at China, they have their own internet and intranet. Iran kind of has its.
She just said Zionism is reaching your pinnacle. It's a sex change. Yeah. This is, you're gone too far, Biggs. This is insane, bro. This is insane. 7,000 should get you better than this, in my opinion. But I guess this is what y'all got to settle for.
The Islamic world is not going to get far, logging all of their thoughts into the meta AI and into just the Zion. It's not going to happen, it's not going to happen while you're hooked up to American Apple iPhones and stuff like that. So
you know what this reminds me of? And I'm sorry to keep interrupting. This just reminds me of like when the Democratic candidate for president or whatever they're running for, and they bring on like a Cardi B or they'll bring on Meg the Stallion to try to convince the other Negroes that you should do the same thing and you should support Kamala because she rocks with Meg the Stallion or Cardi B. Like this is whatever that is. This is far worse. This is worse in my opinion. Like this is bad. She's not even cammed up. They're showing a video, like a picture. Like this is just bad. Like, yeah. And it's not, I think the young lady who's conducting the interview, I think she's trying to do a serious job, but this, yeah, damn.
What I wanted to ask you about when you were talking before, and then we'll finish with just a few more words about your tour here and your music here and what you're going to do. I just wanted to ask you because you were sharing with me that you were unhappy to understand that these festivals and concerts you were going to had, for example, sign-up booths to join Palestinian, let's say, charities.
Palestine Action and stuff like that.
So in terms of this, do you
who got put on the terrorist list, by the way?
So first of all, that's very interesting, but do you feel that reach is extending into a scary place?
No, see, in this, that's why I kind of just said what I said, because I think that, when you live in fear, when you live in fear, like, okay, regardless of what, you gotta live. Whether you live in fear or you live in whatever, one day you're gonna fucking die. It's gonna be over. And I really have just examined Zionism, just as like examined it objectively. as something separate from, Jewish, like, just Jewish nationalism and stuff. And I've been like, wow, this is really fucking amazing. Okay.
Well, if you first you could find your last words on that thought, and also just share with me some words of what you want to do when you're here. I know you said you want to make music, but maybe leave us with something about the essence that you want to bring, the message that you want to bring, and what we could expect from your itinerary that people can take from your art.
I really just want to have a good time. I just want to have a good time. I think that, yeah, it's just like, just have a good time. Because nothing, like, just all of these kind of things where I have to second guess myself, or like second guess my relationships with people and all that other stuff. It's not a good place to create from. Like, I need some freedom, and I'm gonna find that freedom in Tel Aviv, and I'm gonna find that free. I'm gonna get that freedom back. I'm going to take my freedom back from just people and their opinions. I've been under this scope since I was 17, and I just feel like it's one thing after another. It's, oh, you're a homophobe. Now you're this. Now you hate yourself. Now you support genocide, and it's just like, God damn it. God damn
Uh,
it.
well, we look forward to having you here in Israel. Azalea, is there anything you want to leave us with?
Um, I don't know. There's things I want to bring to you, so I'm excited to come to Israel and just do that.
Okay, Azealia Banks, thank you so much for being with us here on the Israel Daily News. We hope that you have a safe journey and a creative trip while you're here.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to see you guys soon.
Yo, that's a classic interview. This chick. Yeah. All right. So we got to get into the next video. I'm not going to talk too much. We're just going to get right into it. So once again, that interview, I believe, was on October 6th. So it was about 12 days ago. Let's get into the next one, which is titled Azealia Banks Goes to Israel and Comes Back Pro-Palestine. All right. So hold on. Let me make sure we got this queued up for y'all. Hold on, what's that noise in the back? Sorry about that. I think we should put a timer on. Let's get to it.
Flips from a pro. So this has been one of the most interesting flips from a pro-Israel stance that we've been able to watch. I'd say actually the most entertaining to watch. Azealia Banks has been an extremely pro-Israel celebrity. She is a rapper, an American singer, and she has been, during the genocide, one of the biggest, loudest supporters of Israel. In fact, but she's now switching her tune. She's in Israel and she's saying things in Israel. And now she's starting to say things like, I want to get out of here now. In fact, I want to leave now is what she's saying. She also says things like, now I see why people support Palestine. And this is in response to this person's tweet that she retweeted out saying, and this, my beloved Jews, is why you shouldn't endorse mentally ill celebrities just because they agree with you. Ashkenazism are descended from Israelites, and they kind of says cry harder. So she's now having this change of tune. And it's happening in real time right now while she's sitting in Israel. So again, let me just show you who Azealia Banks is if you're not familiar with her. She is a rapper, a singer, very much pro-Israel. Look at her in her concert draped in an Israeli flag, just been an extreme outspoken supporter. She's actually in Israel right now. If you might have seen that Tommy Robinson, the British, I think he's trying to run for office. He ran, I think he backed out of the race. But Tommy Robinson, she's in Israel with him, and she actually said this kind of weird. I just want to show you this weird message that she put out there. She says, "The Jews of Britain can't stop panicking. Tommy Robinson is going to Israel with me. Nobody is being a traitor in Britain. LOL. He's coming back. He just needs to go to be properly trained for politics. Tommy is a good guy. We just have to make him look and sound like a real British politician in Israel. Like, you go to it. Well, I mean, this tracks, doesn't it? Totally tracks. All of our politicians have to go and do their pilgrimage to Israel and kiss the wall. And I'm sure they're talked to about how they need to become better politicians so that they can go back to their home countries and and support Israel completely. And I'm sure what happens is they get brought into a room and they say, here's all the blackmail we have against you. So now you're properly trained. You get what you have to do, right? You understand the mission. You stay in the good graces of Israel, and you make sure that you always promote Israel. That's the mission. You understand the mission now, right? Mm-hmm. So odd. But let me just show you some examples of Azealia Banks being extremely pro-Israel over the course of this genocide. Here's one where she says, Israel is really Wakanda for Jews. It's kind of epic. You should support their efforts in nation building and statecraft, even if it's simply for the sake of nation building and statecraft. This is the world's only startup nation. It's crazy they've been able to do all of this in less than 100 years and support it for diversity's sake. The concept of the world's only Jewish nation is very boutique and niche. Okay. Then she says, this Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, the world won't let Israel take back, is built on top of the Jews' second temple. More Muslim arrogance and literal obsession with Jews. Islam really belongs no place in the Levant, and it's even more insane to think an uncivilized group of violent dopeheads deserves to remain there. They should evacuate the mosque and put it in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, then rebuild the third temple there. I'm telling you, this is the fight for identity and preservation and restoration of the Jews and their culture, and more Muslim thirst to present their knockoff Abrahamic religion to the world as pure and relevant. Though Ishmael followers of Islam are not followers of the covenant and have nothing to do with Judaism or Christianity, she says. I mean, these are the types of posts that she's been posting for a while. Here's another one. Pretty sure $7,000 a post is more than a Palestinian mother makes a year off of a litter of martyrs. Imagine having to give birth in the desert in a pile of rubble to 4 sons, raise them through poverty and illiteracy to be suicide bombers so you can collect the equivalent of $400 a month. The Palestinians make less money and do more effort in that pay to slay shit when they could just tweet about how much they love Israel one time and get a bag. But people make their own choices, girls. This is a bit mind-boggling.
The fact that she's just out here saying this and she's still getting paid, I'm assuming the $7K, or like, this is just bad. Perhaps this is what Charlie Kirk was talking about when he was saying, Bibi Netanyahu, you need to do a better job. I don't know if this is what Netanyahu was talking about when he was saying we got to take over TikTok and we got to have X. You can take over whatever it is that you want, but if you put people like Azealia Banks out here saying this goofy stuff, talking about trying to incentivize a Palestinian mother to what, put up a dope post about Israel and get $7,000, like, what are we really talking about? This just shows like you're paying people. Azealia Banks is a salesperson. You ever work for a company and certain people are selling or doing marketing or representing the company, and they represent it in a way where it's like, I see what you're trying to do, but you're actually making us all look very bad. This is what Azealia Banks is doing, and it's about to get even worse. Let's keep going.
So she's saying, like, this mom could just support Israel and make that $7,000 a post. Instead, she blows up her own kids for $400 a month, which is not true. She also doubles down on that, and she says, be honest, you would rather have to birth 3 sons, raise them, encourage them to murder themselves and collect $400 a month, or say something nice about Israel online and get $7,000 and keep your kids alive. It's the devout support you guys have for Palestinians strapping bombs to their teenage boys and 10-year-old girls that's a bit mind-boggling. So she's clearly very ignorant about Palestinians, extremely ignorant in her support for Israel. She even goes on to say, no Black person should be supporting Palestine. Whenever I see stupid ass musicians supporting Palestine blindly without raising the question about Black people's safety and the ongoing industry of chattel slavery, enslavement of Black peoples in the Islamic world, it makes my blood boil. Sharon Osbourne had every right to be pissed off at Coachella for allowing Green Day to pull that stupid ass stunt. The Israel-Palestine dilemma is just a way for non-Jewish whites to throw a chip at Jews, because if you really gave an F and really examined the situation, you would see that there are Black people who have been silenced and had their limbs chopped off and thrown in cages for Arabs to have actually colonized the Middle East. Arabs are colonizers too, bitches, she says. Okay, so what happened? Like, so how do you go from this?
Just being real, got to call a spade a spade. I don't know if she's laughing her off as far as Azealia not having her history correct on this particular aspect, but she's 100% right. Arabs were colonizers. The Arab slave trade went on longer, and based on the research that I've done, was far more vicious than the quote unquote Atlantic slave trade. So if we call it a spade, I may call out certain things that Azealia is saying that just sounds crazy. But I definitely am not calling her a liar based on this. I'm not calling her a liar based on this. She's absolutely right. Absolutely right. The Arab slave trade, that occurred, and the Atlantic slave trade. So we can't call out one without acknowledging the other. So Kim Iverson could act as if it's just Azealia saying something wild, but that is 100% true.
Yes, you know, this like insane pro-Israel person. How do you go from this to suddenly being like, I want to get out of here, and Palestinians are more Jews than Jews? I mean, she's really, and I'll show you the things that she's now saying, but she's really flipping the script on us. So this is the tweet that she put out. She says, I heard there's a whole community of Black Americans in Israel, and I need to find them. Now, she was talking about, she wanted to find American Black women so that she could figure out how to do her hair, like where to go to get her hair done. Like she wanted a weave or a wig or something like that. That is literally why she put this post out. Like, where are the Black Americans so that I can get my hair did? That's like what she's saying. But what happened was she ended up receiving a slew of hate from a bunch of Israeli Jews that were basically like, oh, you mean those Black Jews? They're not real Jews. And that's what she then was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why am I getting all of this like sudden Black people aren't real Jews? And she started seeing all this racism coming from the Israelis and Zionists. And she was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it caused her to flip her tune. This is some of the posts that she received as an example. So here's one saying, you might be thinking about the African Hebrew Israelites in Dimona. It's a community of about 5,000 Black Americans who believe they're the true Israelites. The group was founded in Chicago by former steelworker Ben Carter and arrived to Israel in 1969. And then another person wrote, you're straight up making stuff up. Judaism started in the Levant. Ethiopian and most Black Jewish communities aren't direct descendants. Ancient African religions aren't Israelite Judaism. And Black or Arab people have zero claim to being Israelites. And unlike them, Ashkenazism have majority Levantine ancestry. And this person writes, girl, Black people were never even in the Levant. What are you on? It is even highly questioned to think that there's relevant amounts of Black people in Egypt. And now you want to believe that not just a few, but a whole of Israelites were Black? What is this? Here's another. Do you have any real reason to believe that Blacks are more related to ancient Israelites than Jews are? Or is this just something you believe for egotistic reasons? And then Azealia responded to this and said, this is not even what was said. And this whole thing really just shows how adverse to concepts of Black Jewry you guys all are. Like watching you all jump through hoops and having Jews text me this and that, whatever. It's quite irritating and embarrassing. How did you just make this up? And yeah, so I mean, it's very. So she ends up getting this slew of like, don't talk to us about Black Jews. There's no such thing. and she's like, okay. She starts to question.
If you don't mind, let me step in here, Kim. So for all those that are not familiar with the Hebrew Israelites, I suggest you take some time, check them out on YouTube. You may or may not believe in what they're saying, but it may at least give you a little insight so you have the context for the conversation. However, what is telling is when people, and maybe this has happened to you in the past, have you ever been guilty of something and you're very insecure about it, and you're worried about somebody bringing it up, but then they bring something up, and this has happened to me. They bring something up that really has nothing to do with what you think that they're talking about, but you respond in a way because you're associating what they just said with what you're worried about them saying, and you push back against it so hard without realizing, like, bro, I wasn't even talking about that. Like you just, like, I was talking about this over here. This has happened to me in the past. I'm sure it's happened to y'all. But here she is trying to find Black Americans in Israel so she can get her hair done. And then people start throwing all this stuff out here about blacks. This is what happens when you don't know who you are and you're trying to convince the world that you are the original people from a particular area and keeping it real. You don't believe that. And when we have all these conversations about whether it's connected through blood or it's connected through heritage, if it's connected through culture, the DNA tests show time after time that Palestinians are more connected to the people that were in that particular region, the original Jews that we're referring to, than the Ashkenazi Jews, the white Europeans that currently occupy it. We're just being real. It's cool. Hey, I live in America. America is, was taken over, you could say, by white Europeans. It is what it is. America just stand on it. But nobody's sitting here thinking that America, like that the white Europeans who conquered America were here thousands of years ago. But the fact that y'all have to go so hard to try to prove that, it says a lot. We understand why you say it, because that's your number one talking point. The right to exist. We have the right to exist in order to justify you stealing other people's land, if we're just being real. So I'm gonna toss it back to Kim, but I just wanted to jump in there.
Everything. Here's a tweet. This is actually a producer for this show, Benjamin Rubenstein, tweeted, learned a bit too much about how Ethiopian Jews are treated. And Azealia actually retweeted his tweet out and said, it's kind of given that, Ethiopian black Jews in Israel, they're very much discriminated against. There's a lot of racism in Israel. Surprise, surprise. And it's not just against the Palestinians or the Arabs. It's also obviously against black Jews. Many people try to tell Azealia that, over the time that she's been so pro-Israel, a lot of people have said to her, you realize how they treat blacks, right? Like, this is not the country you should be championing. And then for her to be saying, black people should not support Palestine because look at what the Muslims do to black people, even though much of the Muslim world is, this is how ignorant she is. Much of the Muslim world is literally in Africa. Like, lots of black people are Muslims, lots and lots, a whole big chunk of Africa, in fact. And she's like, the Muslims treat Africans like shit. And so we should support Jews. And then she goes over there and realizes, wait a minute, suddenly all of these Israelis are like, yeah, but the black Jews aren't Jews. And so she's, starting to be like, wait, okay, there's a bunch of racists here. So she starts to turn on Israel. And now these are the tweets. She's in Israel, and these are the tweets that she's putting out there. She says Palestinians have more.
But hold up, Kim, because you didn't acknowledge it last time, so I got to bring it up again. Yes, a lot of Africa is made up of Muslims, but there's a reason for that. There's a very similar reason to why a lot of black Americans are Christian. Perhaps it's because the conquerors, the oppressors forced us to adopt a particular belief system. It happened over there as well. So just to give some context, a lot of people may not like that, but I got to be objective with all this. I got to be objective with it. So no bias, or as little bias as possible. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going. I just want to insert that.
Semitic DNA than Ashkenazi Jews. So that means even Palestinians are more Jewish. Palestinians have more. Now these are the tweets. She's in Israel, and these are the tweets that she's putting out there. She says Palestinians have more Semitic DNA than Ashkenazi Jews. So that means even Palestinians are more Jewish than Ashkenazis. Honestly, the Jews are getting effing boring. And this is why you have no friends, she says. Then she goes on to say, like, what are y'all even talking about? You're effing white Europeans. Grow the F up. I have 2 eyes. I can see. And she says, oh, now it's heritage. This person writes, heritage is more than just DNA. Some Palestinians may carry genes, but Jews preserve the culture, language, and religion across millennia. DNA without lived continuity does not transmit the spiritual or cultural legacy of the Israelites. And she's like, oh, now it's heritage. It's not even about DNA, it's heritage. And then in response to this other tweet, she says, see, now I understand why people support Palestine. And the tweet is, and this, my beloved Jews, is why you shouldn't endorse mentally ill celebrities. We kind of covered that at the top of the segment here. But so she's saying, I was talking about something else. I was talking about something. So this person says, first, appreciate all the support of Israel. Want to address this, and this person kind of writes this really long post. And Azealia just is like, sure. I was talking about Israel. I was talking about Israelites in the Black Hebrew Rastafarian and Black Christianity Hebrew Bible sense. I wasn't talking about Israel, the Levant, Ethiopian Jewry, or any of this. Thank you for this long explanation about a completely different topic. So she's, just kind of having this comical flip. And it's really because it's been so exhausting watching her pro Israel stance. And now it's just really funny to watch her be like, F you all, I'm out. You have no friends. This is why. I mean, it would be better if the reason why she was saying all this is because they committed genocide and she got sick of seeing blown up babies. That would actually be, so this isn't really something to celebrate as Azealia Banks changing her tune on Israel. It's really pretty disgusting that she didn't prior to now, that it took her own personal feelings about racism and that it was just a racism issue for her. That, once they showcase themselves as racist against blacks, then I'm out. Rather than, it didn't affect you at all that they were blowing up all those babies, that they were leaving babies in NICUs to rot to death. Like none of that bothered you. But what bothers you is that they just don't like black people. Okay. I mean, that's bad too. I get it. That's bad too. But, that's what it boils down to. I mean, this is some sort of narcissism. It just boils down to, they just don't like black people. Okay. What about all those kids? What about all those kids? So she gives an explanation. She does a Twitter space where she talks for about 45 minutes about what has gone on. And I want to play for you like the first few minutes of it so that you can hear from her what happened, like how it started and how it ended. And she labeled this Twitter space Black Jewry. Black Jewry is how she titled it. But listen to this.
So I was hanging out with friends yesterday. This Israeli girl that I know, and we were talking about wigs. And she was like, "Oh yeah, there's a bunch of Black Americans here that play basketball, and there's like girls here that play basketball. You should hit them up. They will know how to get like the wig, like the good like American wig. Black American wiggery." So I just kind of said on Twitter, I was like, "Oh, I gotta find the Black Americans in Israel." I wasn't even talking about Black Hebrew Israelites or anything. I was talking about just like girls probably from, I don't know, like Atlanta or Tennessee that are like here playing on some basketball team. And that's all I was talking about. I was talking just about just like general Black Americans, not Black American Hebrew Israelites or anything like that. So this one guy jumps in and he's just like, "Oh yeah, there's a community of 5,000 Black Hebrew Israelites who believe that they are the true descendants of da-da-da-da-da, but they only started in 1969 and kikaka." And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But, obviously when somebody challenges somebody's, like, Black identity, I feel a way. And because I understand Black identity, so I'm like, all right, no, let me explain this to you about the concept of an Israelite as it pertains to like Pan-Africanism and just, yeah, and Black Jewry, really. So, I get that everybody has this like contemporary idea of just like this little patch of land, like Palestine or the Levant, Israel, whatever. But most of the like Black Hebrew Israelites and people like that, they're thinking about Israelites as like a grouping of people that were stretching all the way down from like Lebanon down into the kingdom of Kush. That's where all the and Ethiopia, that's where all the Rastafarian Israelitism and the Black Hebrew Israelitism, like most, well, I don't know what Black churches are doing now, but I know that my grandmother and my like Black Christian family, they use the Hebrew Bible. And there's mad slave songs written about the promised land and Zion and all that other shit. And we have like all these churches. It's like Zion, Church of Zion, da da da. And yeah, that's what they call themselves. They call themselves Israelites, not because they're like trying to take claim to Israel or whatever. And one of my friends hit me up and they were just like, going really hard. And I was just like, that's not really what I'm saying. And they were just like, oh, well, people have been saying that we have no claim to the land. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's, first off, that's not where any, oh my God, that's not where I was going with that. I wasn't even thinking about that. Like I don't even like fucking know. And it just became like one thing after another piling up in the rabbinic debates. And I'm just like, damn, the Jews really like, they could really argue. And then some guy jumps in and he's like, oh, well, Ethiopians aren't descendant from the thing. And I'm just like, all right, this is another attack on just like some black identity. And this is kind of just like egging me right now. Like, so I got into the whole thing. I'm just like, honey, everything comes from Africa. Like, like, I know people, I know. But it's true. And y'all know it's true. Everything does come from Africa. I'm not a black Hebrew Israelite. Hold on. I'm not a black Hebrew Israelite, y'all. I'm not gonna come here and be like, oh, I'm the real Jew. No, I never fucking said that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and I don't agree that they're like the real Jews. But if they feel like they have some sort of like spiritual identity to the shit and it makes them happy and it makes them feel whole and they want to live in Israel and pay taxes and all that, then what's the problem? I mean, like, what is the problem? And just like all of the comments about like Ethiopian Jewry and everybody was just like, oh, they're not descendants and all that. That was offensive. It's just like, damn, haven't Jews had it bad enough? Like, you're trying to kick the Ethiopians out of the Jewry? Like, that don't make no sense. And the guys started going on and on about like, oh, well, the DNA. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, not to be a smartass, but if you're going to make like somebody's jewelry based on DNA and you're like an Ashkenazi Jew, then I mean, technically, technically these Palestinians have like Semitic DNA.
That's right. And that is, she kind of says, well, it's not about the DNA. It's not about the DNA. Like, who cares? But because if it is about the DNA, then Palestinians are more Jewish than you, Ashkenazis. But it is about the DNA. It has to be about the DNA. You have to make it about the DNA because they make it about the DNA. I mean, if you're going to say that God promised us this land, then you have to go, well, what was the promise? Who made the promise? Well, the promise was made to God by God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob, whose name changed to Israel. And Jacob then had 12 sons. It was the 12 tribes of Israel. So the promise was made to the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 sons of Israel, who would end up inheriting the land. That is the prophecy. Well, the prophecy and the promise was very specific. It was to the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, specifically Jacob, who changed his name to Israel, DNA sons, not anybody who just claims to be one of your sons, not, an adoptee or a trans son or whatever. It was the promise was made to the DNA. So you have to base it off DNA. You have to base it off DNA. And if you're going to make that claim, if you're going to say the land is ours from 3,000 years ago because the promise was made, then you have to do it based on the DNA. Otherwise, the problem is that if they don't make that claim, and so many of them are secular and they don't even believe any of it, but they're using that claim in order to get people to go along with it. But it's like, what's the other claim? What possible claim do they have beyond God said we're allowed to have this land? Because then there's really no coherent explanation for coming and taking the land. The only explanation they have is it's ours. Well, why is it yours? Because God promised it to us 3,000 years ago, because it's always been ours. Jews have always lived here. Yeah, but you move your meat, you lose your seat. I mean, you left. Other people live there now. You don't get to come and take it back. I mean, that's not the way it works. I mean, where were any of our ancestors 3,000 years ago? Do you know where your ancestors were 3,000 years ago? Because you certainly have one.
And this is what we talk about. Even she's saying that it just doesn't work, but actually legally after World War II, even if you won the Arab-Israeli war, after World War II, if you beat a country, win a war, you cannot take the private land or property of those people that were in that land that you just conquered. You can't do it. It's just against international law. This is with the Geneva Convention, I believe. But after World War II, you just can't do that. So this is why the UN afterwards told Israel that they need to not only allow people, the Palestinians, to come back home, the right to return home, but also that you need to compensate people whose land you're taking. And they didn't either. So we'll maybe watch another minute of this and then we'll get out of here.
just so you know. You didn't actually sprout from the ground. You have an ancestor from 3,000 years ago. So where were they? And if you could track them down to wherever they were, should you just go back and take that land? Is that yours just because your people have always been there? Well, of course not. Nobody actually believes this, but for whatever reason, we believe it when it comes to Jews. And the only reason we do is because of the promise that was made in the Bible. So it's based on that promise, which is based on DNA. So the DNA absolutely matters. You can't just say, oh, no, it's a cultural thing. It's a this, that, or the other thing. It's like, so what? So you practice yoga every day. Does that make you somehow Japanese? Are you now Japanese because you drink matcha tea and do yoga every day? Really? No, you're not. So DNA matters. You can't just adopt a culture and be like, see, I belong here. I'm going to go take back Japan.
Well, actually, history has shown us otherwise. And whenever you hear pro-Israel Zionist, or you hear people that may not be pro-Israel Zionist, but they get asked the question when we're talking about this topic of, does Israel have the right to exist? This is why they ask that. So that way they can establish that foundational principle moving forward, even though I don't know why people just automatically say yes. The right to exist? Absolutely not. Do you really think that you're chosen to think that you have the right to exist? It's like saying, does America have the right to exist? Does any country have the right to exist? Most countries right now are there because they conquered, killed off the people that were there, did whatever it is, took their stuff. So are you saying that God gave you the right to do all those things so you can set up a nation for yourself? Like, this is, I'm glad that people are starting to see through all this BS and question their propaganda or the indoctrination that a lot of us grew up with, especially growing up in America. So I'm just going to leave it there. I thought that was interesting. Hopefully y'all enjoyed yourselves and also got some information as well. But interesting topic, Azealia Banks. I've actually been going on her X, looking at her recent posts. It's she's out there a little bit. And maybe it's not a little bit. She's out there. But once again, as always, make sure that y'all like, share, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. And most importantly, leave a comment. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I may be off. We're all biased. Try to be objective, but sometimes we have blind spots. So y'all let me know where I'm off, and I'll see y'all soon.